Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the On Deck podcast by Prospects Live. I am Nate Rasmussen, Director of Amateur Scouting at Prospects Live, and I'm joined by my good friend Rhys White, the Director of Pro Scouting at Prospects Live. Rhys, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Actually, maybe not. I'm having a Coke Zero at 10 o'clock as we record this, so my intermittent fasting schedule is not going so great. But been a stressful morning for me.
I was going to say questionable breakfast drink choice, but we're going to let that one slide
It's
for
fine.
now.
I'm a Diet Coke guy over a Coke Zero guy. Coke Zero is not great, but it's what I had in the fridge.
Sometimes you just have to bite that bullet. And
Yeah.
Rhys, today we're talking playoffs. Last time we checked in, it was Sunday. You and me haven't talked a whole lot, other than maybe a little bit of Mariners Tigers, who are now going to a game 5. But we're going to release this episode on Thursday afternoon, before today's game. So we'll preview those two National League games at the end of this episode. But first, we're going to recap kind of what we've seen throughout this divisional round of the playoffs, Rhys. So we're starting on Monday, October 6th. And this was the Los Angeles Dodgers taking a 2-0 lead over the Philadelphia Phillies. And that was the Blake Snell masterclass and the Roki Sasaki save game. What have we been seeing from the Dodgers and Phillies this postseason now, Rhys?
Blake Snell is back out to his usual Blake Snellness. 4 walks in 6 innings. That's 9 strikeouts. That's a Blake Snell line if I've ever seen it. He went toe to toe with Jesus Luzardo, who also looked fantastic. He ended up giving up 2 runs, and that ultimately help lead to the demise. But it's what I've been seeing from the Dodgers is just their bullpen usage has been, they've converted a bunch of starters. Emmett Sheehan's now a reliever. Roki Sasaki is maybe the best closer in the game right now, is what it feels like for sure. And yeah, I just think that this Dodgers team, they've developed all these pitchers and acquired all these pitchers, and now it's basically, I feel like they're handling this in an all hands on deck at any point in any game. Glass now has been used as a reliever. The only people who haven't been used as a reliever is Blake Snell and Shohei Ohtani. And basically any other starter is able to go at any other point, and that's really helped them. Kike Hernandez has continued to be a postseason hero, not only being a social media darling and one of the more interesting people that we have in the sport, but his 2-for-3 outing in that game really, really helped them out. Freddie Freeman's been pretty good this postseason. Shohei Ohtani has had a little bit of struggles. A lot of swing and miss with Shohei Ohtani is what I've noticed with him. But yeah, I think that this Dodgers team is kind of showing why, at least in game 2, showed why they, obviously why they won this game, because they're able to shut down the most important part of this lineup for the Phillies. Trey Turner was the only one with a hit out of their top 3 of Turner, Schwarber, Harper.
Yeah, and Mookie Betts has been incredible this postseason, kind of powering that Dodgers offense. And we're looking at the Los Angeles Dodgers as the clear World Series favorites right now, Rhys. I mean, I know heading into the postseason, they're never the sexiest pick out there. We don't necessarily want to pick the Dodgers to win the World Series, but I mean, they've established themselves as the betting favorite, certainly. Do you agree with that kind of sentiment that the Dodgers should just be the hands down favorite right now?
I think that, yeah, especially in the National League, like of those teams, I think they're the class of that league. I think we'll see with how they match up against either Detroit or the Seattle, or probably more than likely Toronto, if we're being 100% honest. But I think that they are pretty much they should be the betting favorites. I mean, everything goes right for them, even with Dave Roberts. I don't know. I've actually never asked you what your opinion on Dave Roberts is. I don't think he's a great tactician by any means. He's probably below average in that market for giving him a grade of 40 or 45, right? But he's like, he allows his guys to figure it out. Was this the game, or was it last game where they had the play defensively that really made the big difference that the Phillies were just not prepared for at all?
This is 2 games ago. Yeah,
two games ago. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all sort of blending together at this point.
The wheel play, the bunt
wheel
wheel play.
The bunt wheel play, it was very fascinating. They've only done it like twice in 5 years. So yeah, I mean, they're just pulling out tricks, and this is the most talented roster. They mix and match with the best of them. They've got the depth. I mean, Will Smith isn't being asked to be a consistent starter, and he's been perfectly fine. So yeah, team is just the best in baseball, and I think that they should be monetarily wise, I guess, in the betting market should be viewed that way.
Yeah, and then we'll jump ahead to yesterday's game where the Phillies did finally win a game in this series, win their first game of the playoffs this year, 8-2 against the Dodgers. We kind of saw that Phillies offense finally do what we've been waiting for them to do all postseason long. And they tagged Clayton Kershaw pretty well, man. Obviously, Yamamoto started that game, had an okay start, 4 innings, 3 earned runs. You can't be like happy about that, but you can't be the most mad either. Aaron Nola went with kind of the opener route and held the game over to Ranger Suarez, who's one of the best postseason starters of all time. If you look at something like ERA, Rhys. So looking at yesterday's Phillies win, do we think that they can get another one today?
Is Clayton Kershaw pitching again? I don't understand the decision to go to him at that point because the game was still very much within reach. So it was just a very baffling decision by Dave Roberts to go to Clayton Kershaw there in a pretty high leverage situation. And unfortunately, Clayton Kershaw left one to Kyle Schwarber, who all of a sudden is now, his postseason line is one of the more fascinating ones. 182 average, 1.035 OPS. Yeah, this is. I think that the Phillies are definitely back in this. If their offense kind of keeps staying hot like this, then they have a chance to just bring this to a 2-2 series, and then anything can happen in a game 5.
Yeah, and we'll preview that game afterwards. What do you think about Aaron Nola in like the opener role with Ranger Suarez taking the meat of yesterday's game?
I genuinely was shocked when I saw Aaron Nola was going out there for a second inning. I thought it was going to be like a 1 inning sort of like, hey, let's just see how this goes, and then maybe we can use him in the bullpen in game 4, game 5, in an all hands on deck sort of situation. No, the 2 innings, and he held it down. I mean, he's been pretty bad this season. I believe that he's actually towards the end of the season started to look better, but he couldn't have looked worse than he did in the beginning of the season. So it was a very interesting decision by their manager Rob Thomas or Thompson. I forget if it's Thomas or Thompson. I'm not super in on the whole managerial thing, although I do know that he is on the hot seat right now. And if they do not win this series, I feel like he is ultimately going to lose his job. But yeah, I thought it was very fascinating to go with that because why didn't they just start Ranger Suarez? But obviously, looking back on it now, it was a smart decision because it worked.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of Phillies fans out there who are thinking Ranger Suarez should have just started the game. I don't know if they expected Aaron Nola to only go 2 innings. I think most people were worried about Aaron Nola going more than 2 innings. And I mean, the Phillies are clearly were smart in that regard and kind of almost not listen to the fans, but looks like the fans and kind of the Phillies managerial staff were lockstep on that one. Let's talk a little bit about the other NL series, Brewers and Cubs, which is now 2-1 series lead for the Brewers. Going back to Monday, the Brewers won 7-3 in kind of a Jacob Misiorowski. I don't want to call it necessarily a masterclass, but he flashed some pretty exciting stuff on the national stage once again, and Shota Imanaga has just not been able to get it done this postseason.
No, Shota Imanaga has not been able to get it done this postseason. I believe he gave up 60 more runs in the postseason. Or in the regular season, he gave up a lot more runs than normal. And he's also an extreme fly ball pitcher. And if the ball is going to start flying out like it has been, he's just not someone that I think you can consistently rely on. If they do make it to the next series, I don't know how you can start Imanaga. Although they don't really have many more options because I don't think Horton would be back in time. So they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. Maybe they should have done more at the deadline.
I think Horton would be back in the CS if they were to advance, is kind of what I'm hearing. But I mean, that's a pretty big if at this point, right?
That's what they have to be hoping if they advance because you cannot have Imanaga go out there. And honestly, I'm a little afraid about Matthew Boyd starting today. But yeah, in this game on Monday, the Brewers just came out. Jackson Chourio, who looks like he's always getting hurt after every single game. He didn't get hurt in this one. He's having one of the more electric postseasons that we've seen. 714 average, an OPS that starts with a 2, and there's a decimal point after the 2. So this guy is rocking and rolling. He came to play. We have Wilson Contreras, who has been absolutely fantastic. Aaron Ashby was perfectly fine in the opener role. He gave up a little bit more runs than you would want, but perfectly fine. Jacob Misiorowski came in. He was a little bit effectively wild, I guess, if you want to put it that way. The strike zone was not his friend, but he managed to get 4 strikeouts, held it down for 3 innings, and then, they were able to turn it over to their bullpen. I'm surprised that Chad Patrick is only being asked to go like 1 inning. Maybe I don't remember if that was like a matchup situation or not, but he was, started the season. Maybe they could have rode him a little bit longer, but it doesn't really matter because they have this nasty back of the bullpen of McGill and Uribe, who have been absolutely lights out this postseason.
Yeah, and talking about yesterday's game, the Cubs beat the Brewers 4-3 in what was a really close game that was kind of blown in the first inning with Quinn Priester giving up 4 runs and not even recording a third out in the first inning. One of the most underrated starting pitchers this year, in my opinion, Quinn Priester, has been absolutely awesome and pretty dominant for Milwaukee all year long. A super cromulent playoff starter. But we see him give up 4 runs in the first inning and get pulled, Rhys. And then we see that Milwaukee Brewers do that thing where they don't give up a single run for the rest of the game. I'm not sure if the Brewers bullpen's given up a single run this whole postseason so far. But talk to me a little bit about that game yesterday.
It feels like the Brewers bullpen hasn't given up a run all season. They've been
Yeah.
like one of the more lights out units, despite quote not having a star. They've come through and they've held down their own. Yeah, Michael Busch leadoff home run. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then it just continued to snowball for poor Quinn Priester, who I believe his family's from Chicago, or yeah, he's actually from the Chicago area, and they're big Cubs fans. So it just sort of snowballed from there. Kyle Tucker showed some signs of life, even though he's I don't know if you saw the tweet that one of the ESPN people put out, basically saying that there's no chance that Kyle Tucker was ever going to resign, and there was never any chance, which doesn't have to be great for Cubs fans because they gave up a lot to get him. But yeah, unfortunately, this game was kind of done. You looking back on it, it was kind of done from the moment that the game started. The Cubs came out with that 4-run inning, and they just, they were able to just to shut it down for the rest of the game. I mean, giving up a run in the fourth, a run in the seventh, and then a run in the first, it didn't really end up mattering. It didn't seem like the Brewers were really in it this game.
I mean, Jameson Taillon had a solid playoff start, and then this Cubs bullpen really did kind of lock it down from there with a Cubs bullpen that is depleted and maybe the worst that's left in the playoffs at this point. I mean, we have Caleb Thielbar pitching like leverage innings. Brad Keller is getting saves. Drew Pomeranz is, actually been very good this year, but the Cubs bullpen is not a bright spot of this team, and it hasn't been for a while now. So kind of cool to see them be able to hold it down to actually win a game in this series.
Yeah, you got to think this offseason they invest heavy in the bullpen, right? Because although they did try to invest this offseason as well, getting what's his name from the Astros, who they ended up cutting. Doesn't matter. Yeah, but this is a bullpen that is just not up to snuff. And honestly, we talk about how the Dodgers going into the postseason had a really bad bullpen. The Cubs made the Dodgers bullpen look pretty good. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this game goes tonight. I think that I saw Matt Boyd is starting. Did you see who's starting for the Brewers?
I believe it's Freddie Peralta. Yeah, Freddie
Oh,
Peralta.
okay.
Yeah, so we're getting the ones back for today. We'll preview that game in a little bit, though. Let's go over to the American League, Rhys, where the Yankees the Yankees have been eliminated.
Yankees have advanced.
No, the
They've
Yankees
advanced
have
to
not
the
advanced.
postseason.
Oh my goodness. The Yankees were
Cancun, baby.
eliminated, and the world celebrated. It appeared. The Blue Jays looked absolutely dominant this week. Let's just talk about that series as a whole and kind of what it means for, I don't know, the greater playoff landscape. I mean, the Blue Jays look absolutely killer. Like, they look like they should come out of the American League. I mean, great relief pitching, great starting pitching. The bats are on fire for the Blue Jays right now, up and down 1 through 9. Let's just talk about it. What are your thoughts on that series, Rhys?
That series was horrific if you're a Yankees fan, or if you're a fan of Notre Dame, the Lakers, the Dallas Cowboys. It was just not your day and not your series. The Blue Jays were always the better team. And I think that the fact that the Yankees managed to win one game is kind of impressive in itself. But yeah, this Blue Jays team, they just make a ton of contact. They hit the ball hard. Dalton Varsho is all of a sudden a postseason hero. Alejandro Kirk, what did you say in our last record? That Alejandro Kirk should be given the MVP with the way he's been hitting. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has been absolutely awesome. I loved his postseason thing with David Ortiz making fun of the Yankees. I think that's really fun. I think baseball is better when the Yankees get bounced a little bit early in the postseason, especially because, we get to see the postseason meltdowns of their fans. But it's ultimately, the starting pitching for the Yankees was not good. They didn't really have a playoff ace. I only learned this today. Do you want to guess what Max Fried's playoff ERA starts with?
5?
5, yeah, 5.8 ERA. He's almost dipping into 6 ERA. He has not been a good postseason starter. He does get a little bit of strikeouts, but ultimately, a touch and feel guy like him kind of can struggle in the postseason, especially when you have horrific defense behind you at certain points. And this entire season, Anthony Volpe set a playoff, a division round record. Shout out to TJ Stats, who is a known Yankee hater because he's also a Blue Jays fan. Anthony Volpe struck out 73% of the time this postseason in that round. That's absolutely wild. You cannot survive just having a black hole in that lineup. But it feels like they had a bunch of black holes. Aaron Judge decided to start hitting for some power finally. But yeah, ultimately it didn't matter. The Yankees lost, and the Blue Jays are an absolute wagon. And I am very afraid for whichever one of our teams faces them in the championship series. That could be a sweep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's not go there yet. Aaron Judge, I think we should talk about the playoff. I mean, he has silenced the haters in a way. Obviously, the Yankees didn't win, which shows that postseason baseball is worth more than one batter. But Aaron Judge with a pretty incredible postseason run, hitting 500. Is it fair to give him some flowers here as not being a complete playoff dud at this point in his career?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the postseason narrative around him has always been a little bit unfair. He just doesn't hit for power in the postseason up until recently. So, but there's only so much that he can do. When Ryan McMahon is probably your second best performing player, and Paul Goldschmidt, who's even in a platoon sort of situation, might be your second best position player. Bellinger no showed this postseason. Stanton no showed. Jazz Chisholm was yawning, and he did hit a home run after that, but he's also sort of no showed. Judge could not get this done by himself when you have an entire team effort, like whatever the Blue Jays have, the power of friendship, whatever you want to say the Blue Jays have. They've got it rocking and rolling, and yeah, I feel bad for Aaron Judge because this was one of the few postseasons that he's actually performed incredibly well.
And nobody else helped him out. Let's
No.
talk a little bit about the Cam Schlittler piece here. He got shut up, I suppose, is the best way to put this. I mean, Twitter is absolutely on fire regarding everything Cam Schlittler at this point. Not a bad postseason start. I mean, worked into the seventh inning, which is impressive as all hell. But, clearly they didn't have a whole lot of trust in the bullpen because Cam Schlittler was kind of getting hit around all day and didn't have the same kind of whiff numbers that we were expecting after his dominant, historic first playoff start.
No, 100%. And honestly, the fact that they kept rolling him out there is kind of, Aaron Boone. I'm never going to pretend that he's a good manager. But he kind of left him out there. I feel like they should have gone to the bullpen quicker. But what option do you really go with? It's not like anybody in the bullpen has been absolutely fantastic outside of David Bednar. But you don't want to use David Bednar too early. Although we've kind of seen in the postseason, I think that I don't know if you've noticed this trend when a starter just doesn't have it or they get pulled. Teams have been going to their leverage relievers quicker than ever. It feels like. So maybe they should have gone to Bednar because Bednar has been one of the few bright spots in the pitching staff for this Yankee squad.
Yeah, Devin Williams has been okay this postseason. I mean, his stuff's playing up for sure. I think that's a great point to make, Rhys. The best time to use your leverage relievers is the first point of leverage in the playoffs. And we've seen some teams do this, and we've seen some teams not do this. The Philadelphia Phillies refused to use Duran other than in like the eighth or ninth inning. Other teams like the Padres were using Robert Suarez and Mason Miller in like the fourth, fifth, and sixth inning at the first point of leverage. This isn't a good example because the Padres got eliminated. However, I do think it's a noteworthy trend in the playoffs about like your closer isn't your closer in the playoffs. You have to use them at the first point of leverage where you need a shutdown inning. And we didn't necessarily see that out of every single team. I mean, Toronto hasn't done it, but they also haven't been in a bunch of positions where they needed leverage guys early. But this brings me to our next point is Toronto won this game on a bullpen day, Rhys. 2 runs in 9 innings. Pretty dominant performance from this Toronto bullpen who has been quietly underrated, I suppose. I know we've been in on their lefties all year long, but the righties have been getting it done in the playoffs. Jeff Hoffman's been good enough. Brendan Little has been fantastic, in my opinion. I mean, what is it like to win a must-win playoff game with a bullpen day is just as impressive as all hell.
It is impressive, and then you get to factor in that their starters. I believe the championship series starts on Sunday, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because so they get a lot of time to rest those starters as well. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating. You bought your starters a little bit more rest. You didn't have to burn any of them in this game. It's just what happens when you have a plan, and obviously the bullpen game worked. Some might call it like nonsense, but it worked for the Blue Jays, and like I said, it buys Savage some more time to rest. Gausman, who's a little sneakily up there in age, and then whoever else they decide to roll out there. The bullpen was effective, and it also bought themselves some more rest for the next series.
Is Ernie Clement, known Dominican, the best hitter in baseball right now?
Yeah, he's gonna pull an Austin Wells and start playing for Dominican in the. Maybe if we keep starting that rumor, maybe they will try and sniff around him for the World Baseball Classic.
I mean, he's hitting. What is he hitting? He's hitting 643 in the playoffs with an OB. His OBP 625, which is always funny. Refuses to walk, but a 1.5 OPS. I mean, I think that's the best hitter in the postseason so far, by far.
Right. And then you have Varsho with a 438 average, 1.4 OPS. Oh, and then Vlad Guerrero Jr., by the way, he's kind of all right. 529 average, 1.6 OPS. We're talking about just a lineup that kind of just doesn't relent. It doesn't stop. They're all always looking to make contact. And even like their worst hitter, Andres Jimenez, he's had a little bit of flashes and he's been really good defensively for them. Held down shortstop while Bo Bichette's been gone, which Bo Bichette's a terrible defensive shortstop. So probably for the best.
Yeah, Bo Bichette wasn't holding it down a whole lot beforehand. All right, let's talk about the series that you and me both really want to talk about now, Rhys. Mariners Tigers. Going back to Tuesday, the Mariners won 8-4 in a kind of a Logan Gilbert masterclass. Things got a little weird in the ninth inning there, but Mariners were kind of in control for the full game. And then yesterday, man, I had a hard time watching that game. The Troy Melton Mafia is back. I mean, we're so back. Gabe Spires is so down at this point. Casey Mize looked pretty good, got pulled after 3 innings. Bryce Miller looked okay. And the Seattle bullpen just got absolutely tagged in this game, Rhys. And now we have a 2-2 series draw with the game on Friday to decide who goes to the AL Championship Series. What are our thoughts right now, Rhys? How are we feeling?
Josh Naylor is an absolute wizard defensively at first base. I may have had some texts that I didn't end up sending to you about Josh Naylor and how much I dislike him. He is it's that new dad swag apparently. So he was locking it down 3 for 4 at the plate and like was absolutely like he had every Tigers number defensively. It felt like he was just locking down first base. No ball was squeaking by him. But yeah, it was. This game was interesting. For when I was watching Bryce Miller, I was like, man, it feels like he's not getting as many whiffs as you would think because he's just, it's an uncomfortable at bat because he's just able to change the eye level so well. That fastball is absolutely disgusting. They really wanted to talk about the run value of his fastball and how much it's dipped, and then you just keep seeing Colt Keith is grounding into in grounding balls to Josh Naylor. So. Casey Mize, I was honestly like, man, I think they pulled him a little early, like 3 innings. I thought that he was perfectly fine. I thought he could have handled another inning, but who am I to question one of the best managers in baseball, and AJ Hinch? So I mean, the bullpen kind of locked things down for the Tigers at that point. Troy Melton, the Melton Mafia, is so up after what was a horrible start. Yeah, we're talking about the 3 innings, 3 strikeouts, only 1 walk, and he was just dominant. Finished the game on a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. Melton is going to be a really fun pitcher, and I'm so excited that I have Tarek Skubal for Game 5.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it. Casey Mize was pulled too early, in my opinion, because Tyler Holton came in and it looked like the game was almost over after Tyler Holton got pulled without recording an out. At that point, as a Mariners fan, up 3-0, Rhys, I was all the way in. I thought things were great. Kyle Finnegan came in and had 2 pretty good innings. But this Detroit bullpen, man, just got by, and the Melton Mafia is alive and well, and the Mariners bullpen, who I was very confident on heading into this game, really struggled. I mean, Gabe Spire had looked untouchable all season long, and he got touched up pretty bad. Edward Bizardo had been one of our best relievers all year long. Could not keep it a close game. So yeah, I'm not feeling great about the Mariners bullpen heading into Game 5, especially when we don't have a starter announced yet.
Also, they don't have a starter announced yet? Are they? Is it like a playoff all hands on deck bullpen game? Do you think?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be George Kirby. I don't know if it might have been announced today, but I'm fairly certain it's going to be George Kirby with Luis Castillo in like a piggyback situation. My point on the Tigers is the bats have swag again, and that's a problem. Javier Baez has swag again, Rhys.
He does. He that home run was absolutely. It felt like the distance is what 111 off the bat, 454. That felt like a 5,000-foot home run, and that just took a weight off of my chest as a Tigers fan. I know we're going to talk about the home runs, but I do think that AJ Hinch kind of managed this game really well. I think people were kind of surprised when he kept Kerry Carpenter in there to face a lefty, but then he knew that the upcoming, the rest of that bullpen is right-handed, so why lose maybe your best pure right-handed like hitting bat at that point? He destroys right-handed pitchers like nobody's business. So I just thought that was an interesting point. And then Javier Baez, Riley Green got the party started, and then Gleyber Torres finished it off. They should have ended that game with a Gleyber Torres extension. I want him re-signed so bad. I'm okay with inconsistencies and everything that come with a Gleyber Torres, but have you seen some of the second basemen that the league's rolling out there? He's gonna get paid this offseason.
He's been great, man. Just makes contact with everything with enough power. I mean, in the 5th inning, the Mariners had an 86% win expectancy or win probability. Just a brutal one, man. I got to the field yesterday for practice, and I was watching the game there, and just slowly the brakes fell off, and I had to turn it off by the 7th inning because it was just so sad. So I suppose the next best thing to do, Rhys, would be to start previewing these next upcoming games. Let's start with Game 5, Tigers versus Mariners. Tarek Skubal's obviously going to get the start. I would expect George Kirby to get the start for the Mariners. I mean, what are our keys to victory here, man?
Tarek Skubal just needs to be the best pitcher on the face of the planet if the Tigers are going to have any chance of winning. The bullpen's kind of taxed a little bit. So if he can go further, that would be great. Although they do get, like I said, they get a couple of days off. So I think that if the Tigers bats stay awake, Kerry Carpenter comes through. If he faces George Kirby, he has had George Kirby's number his entire career. The Fox broadcast really wanted us to know that. They really wanted to point out every single time that Carpenter has Kirby's number. So I'm wondering how long Kirby has of a leash. Obviously, in a do or die game, you can't just have him out there and like having a meltdown. So I think that's the keys for the Tigers. I think the right-handed power of Kerry Carpenter is going to be absolutely massive against what is going to be a mostly right-handed. Honestly, I don't even know if you roll out a left-handed pitcher for the Mariners at this point. Maybe Bryce Miller comes back out, and he looked actually pretty good despite his stat line not being super great. Maybe he comes out for an inning. You never really know. So that's my kind of keys for victory for Detroit. Do you want to do your keys for victory to Detroit, or do you want to do? Let me go into my keys for victory for Seattle.
I mean, it all relies on Tarek Skubal. I feel like if he has another, vintage Skubal playoff start, then all is fine. He just has to get Jorge Polanco out. It's kind of the key to the game for the Detroit Tigers. If Jorge Polanco keeps going yard off Tarek Skubal, then maybe the Tigers can't win it. Thoughts are churning in my brain right now, and I'm thinking that Luis Castillo should actually start this game, and George Kirby should come out of the pen. Luis Castillo fixes the Kerry Carpenter problem, because if I'm the Mariners, I'm not allowing George Kirby to throw strikes to Kerry Carpenter, and that is not a good thing to say about your starter, because when he throws strikes, they've been hit for a home run every single time that Kerry Carpenter's put the ball into play, Rhys. I mean, it's not sustainable at this point, and Luis Castillo has a sub-2 ERA as a playoff starter with the Mariners. So I'm thinking that George Kirby being able to throw 100 out of the bullpen and give Luis Castillo a couple innings to start the game might be the best path forward for the Mariners. What do you think about that?
I think the best path is honestly Luis Castillo starting. The more I think about it, he pitches better at home, which is funny because it's not like Detroit is also this offensive ballpark by any means, right? We're talking about two of the more pitching-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. But Castillo, he has been getting hit a little bit harder, and the walks have creeped up a little bit for a guy who used to not walk very many guys. So I think that going with him and then Kirby, you kind of have to avoid Kirby. Maybe when Luis Castillo flips the lineup over a second time, depending on where Carpenter's hitting, maybe you go to him right after Carpenter hits at that point, because you just want to avoid that matchup entirely, unless the Tigers decide to be really sneaky and decide to basically keep Carpenter on the bench. There's a lot of different ways that this series can go. The key for Seattle is honestly, I think Josh Naylor is going to start he has to get going at this point. He has to provide something for them offensively. He has been a absolute as what I mean is more power, right? He hit 3 for 4 in the last game. I think he needs to have one of his vintage Josh Naylor sunning people sort of moments, and if he can do that, plus Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez being perfectly fine, average, above average players, what it feels like when they're going against Skubal. It's going to be a very fascinating game. I'm very excited about it. I don't know if we have plans for it or not. I know you have coaching responsibilities. I'm almost going to pitch we should do a live stream, although I feel like that would be terrible for you and I's mental health and physical health and everything.
Yeah, the game is going to be
5:00, right?
I think so. 5:00. Yes, I'll be at the field still, but maybe the second half of that game, you and me will have to plan something out there. The more I think about it, the Mariners have to hit 2 home runs. They win when they hit 2 home runs. So let's hit some home runs. Easier said than done off of someone like Skubal. Phillies and Dodgers today, Rhys. This game starts at 3:00 Pacific time, 6 Eastern time. Christopher Sanchez versus Tyler Glasnow getting a start. What are our thoughts on kind of previewing this game?
I'm very fascinated on how this game goes because Glasnow was fine in relief. So, I think I'm very fascinated to see how this game goes. If Schwarber can continue to stay hot, because the key to this game and the key to the series continuing to advance is the Phillies' top 3 really need to start producing. And, the last game they started to do it, Kyle Schwarber hit that absolutely back-breaking home run off of Clayton Kershaw. So that's going to be the ultimate key to this game. Does the very expensive core of Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and Kyle Schwarber score some runs here? If they don't, then I think that the Dodgers advance.
Both bullpens are rested, with yesterday's kind of pseudo blowout. I am interested to see. I mean, Christopher Sanchez, I think, controls this game. In my opinion, he's the second best pitcher in the playoffs at this point, right behind Tarek Skubal. And if he can go, 6 innings, 2 runs or less, I think the Phillies win this game.
Yeah, I agree.
Roki Sasaki, maybe the X factor for the Dodgers coming in. Maybe we get like a 2-inning save today, must-win game. He's been the best guy in their bullpen. I don't know. I'm excited to see how they deploy Roki tonight.
Do you think that he's going to be a reliever next year? I'm kind of fascinated by what they decide to do with him. If they win a World Series and he's just their closer, is he just their closer for the rest? Because even if that's what he is, what they paid for him to acquire him, and losing out on some prospects, it's well worth it, right? Like they got
Yeah.
maybe one of the best closers in baseball, so you do that every single time you can. What do you
Do you
think
think
about him?
Emmett Sheehan's a better starting pitcher than him moving forward?
I think right now, unless Roki Sasaki's fastball shape just takes a big step forward, but as we're learning in the bullpen, does it really matter about your fastball shape? If you throw 100 and you can avoid people keying on your fastball with your absolutely disgusting splitter, does it really matter? So maybe Roki's just born to be a closer at this point.
A lot of the best relievers have bad fastball shapes. Honestly, it's the high
Yeah.
velocity guys don't have good fastball shapes. It's just kind of how it goes. And I would say Emmett Sheehan is a better starting pitching prospect right now than Roki Sasaki. I think it's close, but I mean Sheehan has done it better than Roki has so far. So, barring kind of big off-season changes from one of the two of them, I would have Roki start in the bullpen next year. Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we agree.
Talking about the Brewers and Cubs, Matthew Boyd versus Freddie Peralta. Pretty late game, 9 Eastern time on a Thursday night, with neither of these teams, being on the East or West Coast. What are we thinking for this Brewers Cubs matchup, Rhys?
Can the Brewers get to Matthew Boyd very quickly? Because we talked about it, their bullpen has been holding things down, and Matthew Boyd has been incredibly hittable this postseason. So I think that is the chance for the Brewers to close the series out, get to Boyd early, get him out of the game, score some runs, and then just allow your nasty bullpen to kind of lock things down.
I feel like Brewers blowout is very alive in this game.
Yes.
Yeah, the bullpen has been absolutely ridiculous all year. Freddie Peralta is one of the better starting pitchers left in the playoffs. Matthew Boyd, I mean, what was the stat? Like he's done something like 180 innings this year, and that's more than he's thrown in like the last 5 years combined or something like that. Like he's running on fumes at this point. And the fact that he keeps trotting out there every fourth day is frankly crazy at this point.
Yeah, he's been going on like short rest this entire postseason, and it kind of shows you how desperate they are. They traded for Michael Soroka, and they just refused to have him be a starter. So yeah, I think that this Cubs team, it's absolutely fascinating, and honestly, kind of crazy that they made it this far. But Matthew Boyd on short rest, I think that this Brewers team is ready to pounce.
So now my final question for you would be: is Toronto, Los Angeles Dodgers World Series, or is that kind of what we're barreling toward at this point?
I think we're barreling towards that because let's just imagine. Doesn't really matter who wins Game 5, right? We both kind of agree Toronto's a step above and maybe a full step and a half above whichever one of our favorite teams makes it, right? So I think that they kind of win the American League pretty handily, and then it's going to be Dodgers and Brewers. I think the Dodgers can kind of just out nonsense the Brewers. So yeah, I think we're barreling towards one of the biggest markets in our country versus the biggest market in our neighboring country.
And we all become Dodgers fans just for pride.
Exactly. It's like the Ryder Cup, right? We get super patriotic about the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean it's been a fun playoff so far with plenty more to come. I want to talk a little bit, Rhys, about something that's going on at Prospects Live right now, and that is our top 20 team lists coming out, Rhys. And so far, the Braves and the Nationals have come out so far, correct?
Yes, we have released 2 lists so far. We are out there putting out lists. I think only Chris Clegg has put out lists so far. So, we're getting out in front of it, and we've been moving along. Let's talk about the Nationals first, because that's the first list that we decided to go with. I forgot what order, and I was the one who made the order, so maybe this isn't a really great thing. But yeah, the Washington Nationals, we decided to go with we're going with National League East, we're going National League Central, National League West, and then we're going to swoop back around. We're not going to ignore the flyover states, and we're going to leave the American League East for last is basically our goal. And yeah, the Washington Nationals, do you want me to dive into the systems, or what do you want me to do?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about just the kind of top 5 guys in this system really fast. Just give a little bit of preview for our listeners.
Yeah, so if you're not a member of Prospects Live, and you're listening to this podcast, I question your decisions that you've made in life. No, I'm just joking. But we're talking about one of the more interesting systems. We're going to start with the Nationals really quickly. The top 5 is Eli Willits, their first overall selection, Harlan Susana, Travis Sikora, Alex Clemmie, and Eric Swan. Very pitching-heavy system, and it has Mike Rizzo written all over him. These are a lot of guys who have a lot of command issues. There's a lot of reliever risk with the pitchers, but Harlan Susana, Travis Sikora, who might have the highest starter probability of all these guys, They all have explosive fastballs. Their breaking balls are really good. I think that the changeup has sort of taken a step forward for a lot of these guys. And Eli Willits, you're the draft lead, so I'll let you talk more on Eli Willits. But I'm absolutely fascinated with Eli Willits. I think that he has a chance to be the best guy in this draft. Obviously, they drafted him first overall. You kind of hope that, but that was more for money than anything else, and it allowed them to get Coy James and Landon Harmon.
I mean, future number one overall prospect potential, surely from Eli Willits. I mean, great defender, great contact bat. I think the power is coming along pleasantly nice, and he had a great debut in Single A this year. I mean, he showed the tools that we needed to see to kind of feel comfortable with him at the number one overall selection. Eli Willits is a future star and kind of makes this national system a little bit fun, even though the depth might not be there, but they had a good draft overall. And Eli Willits is the most exciting guy that they've had in their system for a long time, Rhys. I don't want to say the Harper thing or anything like that, but he's one of the most exciting guys they've had. One of the few guys who has star potential.
Yeah, the last interesting Nationals hitting prospect was this guy named Juan Soto. And even then, Juan Soto was a very interesting prospect because he was hurt a lot. So Eli Willits, kind of the only question with him is, what is the power ceiling, right? Like, that is the only real question I have for him. I think he's a good defensive shortstop. Maybe he moves off a shortstop to go play center field, but that's more team dependent than anything. Although, have you been seeing the way CJ Abrams plays shortstop? He is one of the worst defenders at the shortstop position I've ever seen, who consistently gets ran out there. So Eli Willits probably the shortstop of the future, and I think he moves pretty quickly. Like, there's a lot of safety in this bat. We gave him a 60 hit tool, 45 power, 60 field, 55 runs, 60 speed. This is a guy we really, really like, and I think he's in contention to be like a top 25 prospect.
100%. And if the power is ever a 50, he's an all-star in MLB.
He's probably like a top 10 MVP candidate at that point, right? If he's if he has 20 home run power.
Yeah. I would say so. Can you tell me anything about Eric Swan? I know he came over in the Dodgers trade, but ranked number 5th. What's going on with Eric Swan, who spells his name interestingly?
Eric Swan with a Q, right? We love great spellings. RHYS for Rhys. We're all for it over here. Your parents should have given you like Nathan with like 3 T's or something like that.
No.
Or Connor Essenberg, who we'll talk about later. Connor with 1 N. That was an interesting choice. But Eric Swan, absolutely electric fastball. I think that he's probably a high-end reliever at this point. Like, he could be a really, really good leverage reliever for a team. 6'6", 240, gets good extension down the mound. We're talking about one of the better athletes at the spot. It's kind of a 2-pitch arsenal. The changeup is really not that great. I remember seeing him in Single A, and I was like, oh man, this changeup's like a 30. The fact that it's a 40 right now, kind of an improvement. But yeah, we're talking about one of the better fastballs. He mixes around with the slider shape, 82 to 89. He has a sweeper and a more gyroscopic slider that he mixes and matches. I'm a big fan of Eric Swan, and I think that he has a chance to be like a top 10 closer in baseball when all is said and done. But, with the Nationals not being a very good team, he might start for a couple of years, then get moved into the bullpen and be absolutely disgusting.
I love it. Let's move over to the Atlanta Braves and their 1 million pitchers. Their top 5 looks like Owen Murphy, J.R. Ritchie, Cam Caminiti, John Gill, or is it Heel?
Heel.
And Hurston Waldrep. Rhys, who's your favorite on that list? Who are you the highest on?
Owen Murphy. I think he
is number 1.
He is. You can't be higher than a guy on number 1, right? We're talking about a good arsenal. The fastball is not anything crazy. He's something that the Braves loves to do, and we'll talk about it. I'll actually want to get your opinion on a prospect that they drafted. They love to draft guys with like fine velocity on their fastball, but like good shape. So that's what he is with 90 to 92, good slider, 80 to 83. Changeups also like can show at certain points where you just think that he's a really good back end starter. And I think that this system's not very strong, nor does it have the star power up top, but it does have, a bunch of prospects who are going to play for the Braves next year. I think that one of the mistakes that the Braves made this past season was not investing in enough depth up in the hitting, especially the hitting, but the pitching as well. And I think that the system is going to start providing that this year.
A lot of guys who are getting very close or have already seen a taste of the big leagues, like Didier Fuentes, who's been, an interesting prospect for a while, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Hurston Waldrep only recently started to be good because the fastball
looks really good, though.
He does. The fastball shape is also not great with him. So, but I think that's something that we're going to see. I think Hurston Waldrep and Didier Fuentes might be like high leverage relievers for them. But I think that this is a team that has shown an ability to develop pitching. I think that they've taken a step back on the hitting development, but they have started to take more swings on hitters. And ultimately, I think we're past the, what do you want to call it, the penalties that they were faced for like illegally packaging players and illegally like hiding. Oh, who was the player that they hit? Kevin Maitan, right? They hid him from other people, and whatever, right? We don't need to get into the legal aspect of all that, but we're finally past that. Their drafts are starting to look semi-normal. I actually want to ask you about their draft here in a second, but and they're starting to invest in the IFA market. Diego Tornes is one of the more interesting guys that is going to be coming from the DSL. I'm very excited about him. Big time power bat. Did not hit any home runs, but do not let that fool you. The guy absolutely mashes. DSL stats are not that worth anything. They're like basically written on like paper on napkins and stuff. So yeah, Diego Torres is someone that I think that people should be buying in on, especially if you're listening to this for a fantasy purpose. He is going to be the big riser this offseason when people get a chance to watch the YouTube video of him and see some of the exit velocities on some of those YouTube streams.
Yeah. What was your question on their draft, Rhys? Because I notably did not like their draft
I
at
was
all.
I was gonna ask, what did you think of their draft? What did you if you want to talk about their draft strategy, you're the draft guy here, so I want to make sure that that everything's being taken care of. But just for some context before you jump in, they drafted Tate Sathacine, well above where many in the industry would have ranked him. I don't remember where you ended up ranking him, but and then that afforded them the ability to get some other interesting guys. Are they good? Is going to be the ultimate question. But yeah, I think that this is going to be this is a fascinating discussion on what the Braves decided to do and kind of veer away from what they normally do in the draft.
I dislike it because they didn't come away with talent despite trying to make moves in the draft. If you're going to make moves in the draft, at least get some high upside players, and I didn't see that in anything that they did. Tate Sathacine is okay. He was not a top 50 prospect for me in this draft. He was somewhere in the 50s, and he was drafted, 22, 23 to the Braves, and he afforded them the ability to get Briggs McKenzie, Connor Essenberg, and a couple other guys down the board. Briggs McKenzie is not this huge projection piece. It's like an okay fastball with like lower velo from the left side and a good curveball. He's got like a 12-6 curveball and like an okay changeup. And then Connor Essenberg is, I almost might like more than Briggs McKenzie at this point as an outfielder, but we don't know if he's going to be able to hit the baseball or not, which I can understand if, it's like a 60 power kind of guy, like a Tatum Gray or Quentin Young, or he took like a big shot to save money and get two really exciting prep guys. They didn't get any exciting prep guys, in my opinion. And you can see that in where we rank their prospects on this list, Rhys, because it's not a strong system. And Tate Southacine's coming in at 10, McKenzie's coming in at 17, and Essenberg is barely on the list. So I feel like that should simulate a poor draft strategy alone right there.
Do you think that they got picked at the players that they wanted for their strategy just got picked before them in every single moment? Because like the draft was just very interesting to say the least, right? Tate Sathacine to start the draft. Alex Lodis, who is like his carrying tool is his glove, and that's kind of about it. I have questions about the hit tool. Cody Miller was an interesting draft pick. And Briggs McKenzie, Connor Essenberg, and then some other guys later on down the draft. But it was just a very weird draft for a team that's normally gone very pitching heavy.
And Lodis was pretty much slot. So it's not like they saved money to get someone interesting in the second round. They saved money to go down the board and get some more niche guys that they must have liked a lot more than others.
Yeah.
Kind of when I look at the picks around them, I mean, maybe they really wanted like Xavier Nyans, but I think that they were going to go prep all the way, and there weren't any clear prep guys who went early ahead of them. Everyone was kind of on the board that we expected them to have. Like none of the pitchers really went off the board before them. Some of the more interesting guys like a Gage Wood that they could have sniped up, or Patrick Forbes. So that makes me question the Atlanta draft strategy as a whole, because nothing near them is signaling, like someone who really fits their archetype got drafted right before them. Like they weren't going to take Andrew Fisher. They weren't going to take Ike Irish. Those weren't their guys. Casey Cunningham probably wasn't going to be there at 22. So I just question the strategy as a whole. And you saved $1.4 million on South Scene, but they just didn't take a swing with that savings.
No, they didn't. And it was very fascinating to see the way in which that entire draft sort of came together. I mean, Do you prefer let's use the two lists that we put out, right? Do you prefer Briggs McKenzie or Landon Harmon, right? Landon Harmon was the swing in which, because the both teams tried to save money in the draft. Both did it in very different points in the draft, and that affords you different players to start cutting with. But who do you prefer, Landon Harmon, the present stuff of Landon Harmon, or the idea of projection with Briggs McKenzie?
I like Landon Harmon more. And
Okay.
I think it's pretty close, but I like Landon Harmon more. And Landon Harmon, how much money did he get? Sorry, bad podcasting here, but I do
No,
want to get this right.
I
Landon
didn't
Harmon
prepare you
got
for this.
2.5 million, so he was 1.5 over slot. Compared to Briggs McKenzie, who got 3 million. I like Landon Harmon at 2.5 a lot more than I like Briggs McKenzie at 3.
Yeah, and even like their money, I mean, they technically spent overslot with Ethan Petrie, but I think that's kind of what you had to pay for Ethan Petrie for the Nationals. So yeah, it's just very fascinating to look at these drafts and everything after the dust has settled. We've seen a little bit of sample size for some of their guys. Sathasine was fine as a pro in single A, like totally, like nothing crazy, but I don't think there's any crazy tools. Like, what is the carrying tool for Sathasine?
What's he gonna do? Like, what is he? I don't know. I have no idea what he is. He's a
Is
second
he
baseman.
Is he
Like,
like a great value, like Nico Horner? Like, is that the upside here? And even then, that's not like the most exciting upside by any means.
Southenseen struck out 41% of the time and walked 1% of the time. He must have had one walk in his short single A sample and
Yeah.
66 plate appearances. That makes a lot of sense to me. That is my victory lap right there.
Especially because,
Um,
like, yeah, although I am, he did come from like a Nevada high school, and Nevada is not exactly known for being, the talent capital of the world by any means. But yeah, so I didn't realize he struck out as much. I thought he did better than that. I heard reports that he was better than that.
I
If
think
the
he started out hot and
Yeah,
then I think he stunk the rest of the way. I'm just not sold on the draft strategy that they're doing
the
right now. I don't think it's smart.
I don't like it either. Even in a down draft, I just would have enjoyed more interesting upside guys. Ultimately, Briggs McKenzie's probably going to be like the next Spencer Strider because they develop pitching pretty well. I don't think that's actually going to happen, but it's very fascinating to see and compare these two teams that kind of did very similar strategies and how they went about it. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps up list talk. We'll be going through next week when we talk. We talk on Thursday, so we'll at least have the Marlins and either the Phillies or the Mets. I haven't decided yet.
Sounds great, man.
So
Anything
some
else
fun
to shout
systems.
out that's going on at Prospects Live right now?
We have the Dynasty team. They've gone through and they're doing their lineup projections for 2028. And I believe that we're done with most of our series stuff. Matt put out his AFL hitter rankings with the Dynasty outlooks for each team. We recently just put out the Pittsburgh Pirates. And yeah, I know that you and the draft team have something coming out next Monday, correct? Right. And then we have the Bowman Chrome price tracking, which is a really good read. Drew Wheeler and Jake Bargary have launched a podcast going college baseball now. So we've got a lot of interesting stuff. Me and Smod are talking about how amazing the content that we've had, how awesome it is that we don't have to double post on Patreon anymore. Yeah, so we've got a lot of exciting stuff over at Prospects Live. So for the price of what can you buy for $5 these days? Oh, two protein bars. If you can get some of the best content out there, two protein bars might be like $8 these days. I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they are. Not in this economy, Rhys, but this has been another episode of the On Deck Podcast, episode 41. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.